Well, it was earlier this year that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released the startling new numbers. 1 in 68 children falls on the autism spectrum.
Isn't that incredible? It seems like we're learning more about autism all the time, and now we're learning more about diagnosing the disorder. Researchers from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine say studying a child's brain waves may help doctors classify and diagnose autism earlier than what is now possible. Researchers studied how fast a child's brain responds to sights and sounds and found that children with autism process the sensory information a little more slowly by merely milliseconds than those who do not have the disorder. Researchers say the slower the children process the sounds, the more severe their symptoms. Now, this admittedly, Lisa, it was a very small study, only 43 kids, but the important thing about this is that scientists are hoping that their findings can lead to earlier diagnosing. That is critical in the development of a child with autism.
Yeah, it sure is. And Jimmy, that's just one breakthrough when it comes to autism. Another significant discovery may help cut down on the number of seizures many autistic children have, and it may all come down to diet.
I'm just going to put a pipette tip on. And
Dr. Kara Westmark has spent years in this lab. In the last 2, she made a discovery that could transform how children with autism are treated, particularly if they have seizures.
It was quite a surprise when the diet alone had an effect on the seizure rate.
Originally studying a drug she hoped would stop seizures in mice, Dr. Westmark replaced their soy-based food with a dairy-based one, and the number of seizures surprisingly dropped in half. She then studied the data collected by a national organization of nearly 2,000 autistic children and found if they ate soy formula, they had 2.5 times as many seizures than those who didn't.
If I had a child and I couldn't breastfeed or give a cow milk-based formula, I would talk to my pediatrician and look if there are alternatives to soy out there, so I would not use a soy-based formula.
Dr. Westmark said soy is a widespread ingredient in many foods, and its high level of plant hormones could be what's impacting autistic children. As many as 1 in every 68 children have been diagnosed with it.
They're quite excited if a dietary intervention could at least help because the rates are rising so quickly.
A recently published study could help treat seizures and prevent neurological damage or lifelong problems like epilepsy.
If they have fewer seizures, then perhaps the behavior would be better.
The doctor admits further studies like a clinical trial could help strengthen her findings, meaning even more lab time.
Now, keep in mind, this news affects only children with autism. Dr. Westmark hasn't studied how soy might impact kids without developmental disabilities. And even with this new research, Jimmy, there's still so much to learn when it comes to autism.
Yeah, and as with most things, knowledge is power. So joining us today to tell us a little bit more about the disorder is Dr. Lauren Kenworthy, who's the director of the Center for Autism Spectrum Disorders at Children's National Health System. Doctor, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
So we hear things like brainwave tests and hitting milestones by certain ages. What should parents be looking for when it comes to trying to detect autism?
So that's a great question. And, you know, it's exciting to see new science looking at things like brainwaves. But in fact, we have some very specific and powerful basic behavioral observations that parents can make of their children. And that's still the best way to catch autism. And there's wonderful resources that point parents to what these are. Mm-hmm. The CDC has an early signs website I strongly recommend, for example. But you want parents to be looking in that first year of life to make sure that they're seeing their kids, their babies have big smiles and joyful expressions, that there's babbling by 12 months. You want parents to have big red flags if they see their child lose any speech or babbling. And by 2 years of age, you want to hear 2-year phrases, and you want a child to be imitating their parents. And as they move into 3 and 4 years, we're looking for them to be doing make-believe play and wanting to play with other children. So there's very simple markers that parents can look for that will help them catch autism.
Now, Dr. Kenworthy, why does it seem like the numbers grow so quickly? I mean, it wasn't so long ago when it was 1 in 188 or 1 in 150. Now we're down to 1 in 68 children who have some form of autism. Why is that?
Boy, isn't that the million-dollar question? That's a huge question out there for us in the research. world. The first answer is actually a really good one, which is that we have increasing awareness. We have pediatricians now actively screening for autism in a way that they never did. And we're including more kids in that umbrella that we define as having autism. So kids that were more quote unquote mildly affected, that weren't considered autistic in the past, now are included. So for those reasons, we now get to help a lot more kids a lot earlier. And as part of that, we're aware of them and we're counting them, and it looks like there's more kids